Hello everyone, here's Paul from Masterforex.com and welcome to the weekly review of 5 major forex pairs based on Masterforex-V Technical analysis. Each weekend I am taking EURUSD, British Pound, Australian Dollar, Canadian Dollar and Japanese Yen against US Dollar and sharing with you my strategic direction for the upcoming week and the reference points where that strategic direction could change. So for those of you who doesn't know, this is the way I trade. Each weekend I choose my strategic direction based on H4 and D1 timeframes and share with you my reference points. Once I have the strategic direction for each of those pairs, then I go each morning, I trade intraday. Each morning I create tactical plans for each currency pair for that day. And then once I have a tactical plan and entry zones, then I go and apply my trading system, which is usually trend following trading system. I trade mostly only in trends. I skip the flat phases. So with you, I'm sharing here 30% of my trading plan for the upcoming week. And if you want to know more, you can always join RMP Forex Training Program and I'll personally teach you how to use that strategy in your own trading. Right, before we proceed, just make sure you read through the risk disclaimer. It is very important. And let's get straight into the charts. The first pair is EURUSD against US dollar. If you'll remember my last review, I said that this reference point is protecting the trend up, and I said that once this reference point will be broken, I will stay away from this pair. But this is just a moment, and this is the situation where you have to learn those reference points and how to go with market step by step by yourself without waiting for somebody to explain you what is happening. So once we broke through this reference point, I was staying away from this pair and waiting until it creates a new FZR up. So if we will go to a smaller time frame, here you can see an FZR of H1 time frame, and that immediately enabled me to come back with my trend following trading system. And as you can see, we made that FZR on Thursday. So on Friday I had to skip because usually I don't trade on Fridays unless I can find some entry points in the morning. So here I couldn't find anything, and then I had to skip this whole movement. So from upcoming week I will be looking only for some buy positions as long as we are above this reference point for H1. So once we'll break through this reference point, this pair will stop on H1 time frame, and then I'll be looking for some new reference points. But for the strategic direction, this pivot point for me is the important pivot point, and as long as this pivot point is not broken, I will be looking for I will be working with this trend up, because as you can see here as well, I mentioned that also in my last video, that once we will break through this reference point, we will break through this high, we will have a weekly FZR up, an FZR of weekly. So that means for me that Euro moved into a trend phase of higher time frames up, and now hopefully I can work with this trend up longer and attack this trend a little bit harder. So we'll see what will happen the upcoming week. Each morning I will be creating tactical plans, as I said before, by myself. And if you want to learn how to create those tactical plans, as I said in the start of the video, you can always opt in for the RMP Forex Training Program, and I will personally teach you and give you everything that I use in my own trading, so you can use it yourself as well. Right, so the next pair is British Pound against US Dollar. British Pound, if you will remember my last review, I mentioned about this reference point here, and I said that if we will break through this reference point, I will be very careful with some new buys, and I will have to wait until we'll break through the new the pivot point that protecting this C wave down. Here you can see that's the same FZR, and once we broke through it, a pivot point was created, and you can see first we broke through this pivot point, and then we created a hidden FZR up of H1 time frame. So again, that happened on Friday, so I had to skip that whole movement. But from the upcoming week, starting from Monday, I will be looking for some new buy positions, and each morning I will be creating some tactical plans to find some entry zones to go together with that trend up. Again, guys, this is how it is important to know yourself and be able to go with the market yourself and know exactly where are those reference points. Now, this pivot point is now protecting the whole trend up. As you can see here, we broke through the this high as well. So we have this FZR, we have also this FZR, and this pivot point is protecting that whole trend up. So as long as this pivot point is not broken, I'll be looking for some new buy positions. But once it is broken, this pair, British pound, will come back to flat face, and then I will abandon my idea using trend following trading system. But as long as we are above that pivot point, I will be using my trend following trading system, and will try to attack this trend as hard as possible. The next pair, which is Australian dollar against US dollar. If you'll remember my last review, I mentioned these two reference points, and I said that as long as we're between those two reference points, Australian dollar will stay in a flat face of D1 time frame, and I will stay away from this pair. So for those who's looking what is happening with this impulse here, I'll just go to smaller time frame to explain you. Here we have hidden FZR up of H4, and this pivot point protects that whole trend up. So once we will break through this pivot point, the impulse up will stop, and we will have some new reference points for daily flat face. As I said before, I am staying away because we have D1 flat face from those higher reference points. For me to start using my trend following trading system, we need to finish that impulse first, and then once we break through that reference point, if that will be created the upcoming week, then I can start using my trend following trading system after that reference point. But for now, as you can see, this impulse is still developing, and I will have to stay away from Australian dollar. We'll see what will happen the upcoming week. For now, it is what it is. Canadian dollar against US dollar. If you'll remember my last review, I mentioned these two reference points, and I said that as long as we're between those two reference points, we will be staying in a flat face of D1. As you can see, we're still in a flat face. And also, if you will rewind back 3, 4, or 5 reviews in the past, you will remember that reference point. And as soon as we broke through this reference point, I said that we are back to daily flat face. And that time it was quite hard to believe, because you could see such a nice trend down, and then you could see such a nice impulse up. Nobody could believe that we could stay somewhere in a flat. But as you can see now, the reference point worked perfectly, and my decision to stay away from this flat face was very good, because usually traders lose money in a flat face, and you can earn money. At least I can earn much more money only when there is a trend in any direction. It doesn't matter for me what direction we will go, as long as the pair is in a trend phase. So once we'll break through this reference point, we'll have an FZR of D1 up, and then I can start using my trend following trading system. But if we will go like that and break through this reference point, we will have a weekly FZR down, and then I can start using my trend following trading system here as well. But as long as we're between those two reference points, I'm staying away from this pair. Next pair is Japanese yen against US dollar. Japanese yen. If you'll remember a couple of my last reviews, I said that we have a flat in a flat in a flat in a flat, right? So there was a flat phase of couple of levels, and you can see here now, this is the H4 flat, this is the daily one, and this is the weekly one. And I said also that once we will break through some of the reference points, we will go very quickly in some direction. And as you can see, this is what is happening now. I'll just go to smaller time frame. Here you can see that's the FZR. That's the FZR that I needed, and this is an FZR of H4. And once we broke through it, this pair moved into a trend phase, and now I'm using the trend following trading system. And for the whole upcoming week, I will be looking for some new sell positions. And if we will go and break through this reference point, that will even confirm that we are in a strong trend down, because that will be a daily FZR down. And so we will have H4 plus D1 trend phase down. So for now, I'll just go back to H4. This pivot point here protects the H4 trend down. So as long as this pivot point is not broken, I will be looking for some new sell positions. Once we will break through this pivot point, I will need a new low. I will need the price to renew the low. But if we will renew the low, then a new reference point will appear, and then I can start to use my trend following trading system as well, again. But for now, I will be looking for any pullbacks. Each morning I will be creating tactical plans and try to jump in and attack this trend down. We'll see what will happen. We'll see how lucky will I be for the upcoming week. But this is what is happening with Japanese yen. It is in a trend phase down of H4 and hopefully soon of D1. We'll see. So this is it, guys. I hope this video will give you some new ideas. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts or ideas, feel free to post in the comment section below. I will be more than glad to have a chat with you. Again, for those who's wondering what are these reference points and how can you use them in your personal trading, as I said, here is the link for you. Opt in for the RMP Forex training, and I will personally go through with you through the all reference points and teach you all those reference points and explain you and give you all the instruments that I use in my trading myself. You will be able to understand each market and find those reference points by yourself anytime you want and on any currency on any time frame. So this is it, guys. For those of you who is still not subscribed, here is the button for you. Click the subscribe, and I will talk to you the next weekend.